Don't feel bad if you don't recognize this rare airplane. Even the airplane spotters get stumped by this one. It's a Kinner Sportwing, and it's the last of its kind still flying. David DeVries owns the Sportwing, and he flies it near his home in New England.
Even seasoned pilots that have been pilots for a long, long time look at it and they wander over, and they've never seen anything quite like it. With the struts on the top of the wing, it's a side-by-side open cockpit airplane, which is really kind of rare. Those are the kind of questions, but what is it? What is this thing? And of course, then I get to spend 10 minutes telling them about it, so it works out pretty good.
The airplane was built in the 1930s, and the process of buying and restoring it wasn't easy and it wasn't quick.
So we walked to this old, dilapidated wooden hangar, and he pulled over the door, and I looked in there and I saw this plane. And that plane was covered with all sorts of droppings. Even with all that, I thought it was the most beautiful plane I ever saw.
It took DeVries and the former owner 15 years to come to terms. And when they finally made a deal, the airplane was in pieces on a trailer at the Sun and Fun Fly-In. The next step, take it to Boston.
The next morning, I get a phone call from this fellow that owned the plane. He said, "Hey, I've been talking with my wife, and not only have we decided to accept your offer, we're on the road. We've loaded up. We're heading for Boston." They got here Sunday morning. I had my mechanic come in, and we offloaded it on from their trailer into a hangar. So it was finally mine after all those years. My mechanic had heard of a restoration company that had done a job that he knew about in the Philadelphia area, the Posey brothers. And they came up and looked at it. Everything seemed to be here, all the parts and the pieces and what have you. They kind of got excited about doing it, and it took them about 15 months. The engine was sent off to Antique Aero Engines in Santa Paula. Brad Ball is his name. He was a great guy to work with. When I got the plane, knowing there weren't many Kinners out there, I went through the FAA registry and found all the Kinner airplanes, not just the Sportwing, but the Kinner airplanes that were still flying. And I found that I think it was 7 or 8 that were still registered. And I sent a little form letter to all those people asking if it was in a museum, is it ever going to fly again, is it a wreck, or is it dead, or what's your status? And I heard from all of them, none of them were flying. From that, I've deduced maybe not only the only Sportwing flying, but it may be the only Kinner airplane flying.
The Kinner's 5-cylinder radial engine can be started by hand. It cruises about 100 miles an hour, and it's stable and graceful in the air. The red leather interior was stitched by hand, and many of the instruments are true to its time period. Look for the Sportwing at its home in Lawrence, Massachusetts, and at aviation events throughout the New England area. If you recognize it, you'll be one of the very few who knows what it is. Dave Hirschman, AOPA Live.